So Donald Trump and Mike Pompeo were responsible when they were in office for murdering General Soleimani. General Soleimani, it was one of the top anti-ISIS commanders on the ground in the Middle East. He was the head of a Shia front which would take on ISIS. Well, the U.S. was not a fan of General Soleimani, and word was that, he's representing Iran, and Iran is, of course, one of our top enemies, and we had intelligence of where he was, so Trump ordered the strike, and he was killed. Well, now Iran, the new president of Iran, Raisi, just gave a speech where he didn't mince words, and he said, listen, it's a war crime, and you should be tried for it. So let's take a look. This is from The Hill. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi is calling for former President Trump and former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to face trial for the assassination of General Qasem Soleimani, who was killed in a January 2020 drone strike ordered by Trump. Raisi, in a speech on Monday, said Trump and Pompeo should be tried in a fair court for the assassination of Soleimani. He called Trump an aggressor, murderer, and the main culprit. If Trump and Pompeo are not tried in a fair court for the criminal act of assassinating General Soleimani, Muslims will take our martyrs' revenge, Raisi said. The aggressor, murderer, and main culprit, the then President of the United States, must be tried and judged by the Islamic law of retribution, and God's ruling must be carried out against him. Raisi added, Soleimani was killed near Baghdad's airport on January 3rd, 2020 in a drone strike that Trump ordered. Quote, we took action last night to stop a war. We did not take action to start a war, Trump said in a statement the next day. I remember reading that quote and just losing it. We murdered your top commander to prevent a war, not start it. Flip the script. Imagine Iran kills a top American general, and then we're ready to respond, and they go, whoa, what are you guys doing? We didn't murder your general to start a war. We were trying to stop a war because we thought he was going to come for us or something. What would our reaction be? That we left that out of the room. Are you? Of course we're going to attack you. You just declared war on us. You just killed our top commander. What are you, insane? Are you insane? Do you have any brain cells in there? But we do to them, and Trump said that with a straight face. Look, I'm not trying to start a war. I just murdered your commander because I wanted to prevent a war or something. So when we do violent actions, it doesn't count. We define it as defensive and preventative by definition, even though there's zero evidence Soleimani was going to attack the U.S. in any way, shape, or form. And then they go, oh, well, he was involved in the Iraq war and he went after our people then. Well, now he's on the ground fighting ISIS. And you took out him, which means what? You were de facto allying with ISIS, which is not too out of character for the United States, to be honest, to side with jihadists. We've seen this during the Cold War under Ronald Reagan, where we funded the Mujahideen, which later became, split up into the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. We've seen this under Obama with the arming of Syrian rebels, Al-Nusra Front, which was a jihadist faction. So this is not out of character that we ended up acting as an ally to the worst of the worst in the Middle East, to the Sunni fundamentalists, the Salafists, the jihadists. So to their commentary here, to what Raisi said, listen, this is what America asked for, because Obama made the deal. Obama and Kerry made the deal with Hassan Rouhani, who's a moderate in Iran. And then we violated the deal 1,000 ways and we pulled out of the deal. So what happened in Iran was people looked at the moderates and they said, you suckers, how naive are you? You cut a deal with the great Satan and they went back on it immediately. Why did you even cut a deal with the great Satan? Everybody knows we've been warning you. Of course they're going to stab you in the back and twist the knife, you losers. And so that led to the rise of the right in Iran, the hardliners. And Raisi won. Raisi's a hardliner. So now this is the kind of talk that you get from hardliners. Under Rouhani, we made a peace deal. Under Raisi, fuck you and the horse you rode in on, and you should be tried for war crimes, and you should be tried in an Islamic court too, and if you're not, well, we're going to take our martyrs' revenge on you. This is what you asked for. You wanted to be a hardline. You wanted to be an asshole. You wanted to rip up the deal, which was working phenomenally well, not according to Kyle Kulinski, according to the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, who was tasked with checking whether or not the terms of the deal were being upheld. Well, here you go. And listen, the Islamic stuff aside, where, oh, you should be tried in an Islamic court, that stuff aside, is there an actual argument that Pompeo and Trump committed war crimes and they should be tried in an international court of law? You bet your ass there is. We told you, the International Criminal Court told the U.S., because part of our crackdown on Iran, we were even sanctioning medicine from going into that country. The International Criminal Court said, you cannot do this. This goes to women. This goes to children. This goes to civilians. They need medicine. It's illegal for you to block medicine from going into their country. The response from America was to pull out of the International Criminal Court and chastise it and say, thank you, we're going to go ahead and keep sanctioning the medicine. On that alone, that's a war crime. You should stand trial for that. Assassinating a commander, there was no declaration of war through Congress. There was no declaration of war. Congress has to declare war. There was no declaration of war. They didn't even pass anything saying that Soleimani's a okay target, where instead of saying, oh, we're going to war against a country, they could have said, hey, here's a specific target you can go after. They didn't even do that. There was no declaration of war in any way, shape, or form, and you did an offensive, illegal, unconstitutional assassination on a foreign commander and almost sparked World War III. I remember that was the part of the Trump presidency. I was like, oh no, what have you done? What have you done? Because then what happened? Well, immediately there were retaliatory strikes within the next few days. And so you sparked a backlash. You sparked more fighting. And for what? This guy wasn't planning attacks against Americans. He had his hands full with ISIS. I'm sure at the time Israel and Netanyahu were involved. They're always pushing for more tensions and more war with Iran. I'm sure Trump, surrounded by his neocon hawks, probably Bolton was still there at the time. I don't remember, but I think Bolton was still a top advisor at the time. And all the neocons want more war, more war, more war, be more hawkish, raise tensions more, kill, murder, assassinate. And somehow when we do it, it doesn't count as offensive, even when it's by definition offensive. It's only defensive or whatever. And it's dangerous, man, playing with fire. And if any other country acted in the way we acted on that day, we would say they're a rogue country and they're ripe for regime change. That's what we would say. You can't assassinate random generals and commanders around the world and act like it's fair and fine. So in a very narrow way, this guy, he's making sense. He's not making sense, using Islamic court, and he's not making sense, we'll get the martyrs' revenge or whatever. But the idea that Trump and Pompeo should be tried for war crimes, as Noam Chomsky said, every post-World War II U.S. president, if the Nuremberg laws were upheld, they'd be hanged. Now, I'm against the death penalty, so they shouldn't be hanged. But should they be tried and have other forms of justice and their sentence be upheld? Yeah, they absolutely should. Whether it's Obama, whether it's Trump, whether it's Biden, these guys are all war criminals. And there's no doubt about it. And this was one of the most egregious acts I'd ever seen. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.